So if you're an investor in AMD, chances are that in the past few weeks and months you have been basically swapped over by a lot of discussions about AI, and in a sense, most of the discussions has forgotten about the let's say bread and butter of the company's business, which is, in my opinion, more and more going to be the server and data center side of business. So just before we start into the server side, we know that Intel is still facing some troubles in the gaming side. So this gives AMD opportunity for their gaming side of things, and continuous market share gain in that regard. And we can see here that the gaming side is basically the desktop and to some degree the mobile side as well. But if you only focus on the red one, we see a strong growth in the past few years and then a bit of stagnation, as Intel has basically patched up some of their deficiencies with Alder Lake and Rocket Lake. So yeah, I think in the past 2 years Intel has been kinda gaining some momentum, but now for AMD with Gen 5, in order to gain even more market share, it's not bad news that Intel seems to have troubles with their upcoming products on the gaming side. So now focusing on the more important and ever so also growing importantly, the server and the data center side, which is represented by the this line here, and you can see that it's been going a bit slow to begin with. You can see the gray line there, but it's been basically steadily gaining some market share. And as of right now, which is, let's say, data that is in there is for Q1 of 2023, so just a few months ago, AMD is just below 20%. And the question is, where will this line go now? And you have to remember that this is the main important segment for AMD going forwards. Gaming is important, but this is much more important because the margins are much higher in this segment of the market. So if you're investing in AMD, you have to have good idea of where this gray line is going to go from now on. So one way to look at it is actually to go to Moore's Law instead. I've been following him for the past few years, and of course not all in him, but we know that Intel has been having troubles with their server lineup especially. I mean, they have troubles with their gaming side, but since the chips on the gaming side are a bit smaller, you can basically force it with higher power supply and make let's say not so engineering nice solution, but it kind of works. I mean, sure, you have to cool it down, and but it's not a big problem for a, let's say, average consumer. But on the server side, you cannot do that. I mean, there's limits to how much power a server park can actually consume, and it's just also not competitive products because the dies and the yields are not so good when Intel is going into these huge die sizes. So you cannot just throw more power at it at that point. So they seem to have troubles, Intel. And according to Moore's Law, there was a product called Sierra Forest, which is a 144 core product from Intel, supposed to launch in 2023. But everything looks like it's gonna be postponed to 2024. And this product was mainly meant for Facebook, or as you could say, Meta these days. Now Meta has basically, they have grown tired of Intel postponing their hardware updates every year, and they have basically, in a sense, put an ultimatum to Intel that any more delays and they will reconsider their entire business philosophy. And I mean, if you cannot go with Intel, where do you go? Of course, you go to AMD. And we can see that AMD with their server lineups, as we saw in the graph here, that it was slow a bit, but that was in the early ages of Naples and Rome. But with Milan, and especially Milan X, there seems to be a lot of traction, and the customers are happy with let's say a very confident timeline from AMD, with like executing their timelines in terms of new product launch. So Milan and Milan X really did that for AMD, and Genoa was just like the final nail in the coffin for everyone who doubted AMD's product, because Genoa is so insanely good. Like if you look at this article from late last year, so just a few months back, not even a year ago, and when they compare Epic Genoa to Intel Xenons and also some older AMD Milan products, they see up to 50 to 60% increase in performance on different workloads. Now 50-60% is just, I mean, it's just bonkers in terms of increase in server side of products. Usually you see 10, 15, 20%, but I mean 60% is just insane. But what's more even insane is just, as I said, this is Genoa. So as you can see here, Genoa and not Genoa X. But just recently, a few weeks ago, AMD launched also Genoa X and Bergamo with up to 128 Zen 4C cores. And sure, at the face of it, I mean, if you look at this 144 cores from Intel Sierra Forest, the problem is that these are not as big and as powerful cores as the cores in the AMD lineup. So the Zen 4C is much more powerful than the cores in the Sierra Forest. And not only that, they also have multi-threading or hyper-threading, whereas the Intel cores are just 144 cores, no hyper-threading. So, and in addition to that, the AMD solution simply is in the market as we speak, so you can buy it basically now, whereas the as far as we know, Sierra Forest is postponed to at least late 2023, probably first half of 2024. So I cannot see, no matter how you look at it and dice it down, I cannot see how AMD won't be gaining even more market share on the general purpose servers, which is basically their bread and butter on AMD's earnings going forwards. And sure, we haven't spoken anything basically about AI in this video, but I purposefully didn't want to talk about AI because there's so much talk about AI, and in the next few videos I will cover it again. But I think it's very important to also not get away and don't forget the actual main business segment for AMD in the right now basically. So it's very important to not only follow the hype as well, and I think there is no hype here. AMD is like, I mean, this revenue here on the data center, I expect them to in Q3, but especially in Q4 to really grow a bit. And I mean, if we see 2 billion to 2.5 billion in Q4, that would be amazing. But even if we don't see that, I mean, even at 1.8 to 2 billion, it's fine, because it's not the most let's say fast-paced market in as of the moment, with all the troubles with the increase of interest rates, and there's like questions about consumption both on the business side and also private consumer side. So at 2 billion in this kind of environment, in this kind of market, I mean, who knows, maybe next year Q4 could see 3 billion revenue in data center segment, and with that also follows probably much higher operating margin. I mean, I could see close to 40% operating margin, and imagine 40% on 3 billion revenue, that could be over 1 billion of net income just based on one quarter and one business segment, data segment, and also a segment that still haven't grown. I mean, there's a lot of room to grow for AMD. I mean, you can see here, like Intel is still, and Intel and ARM and other companies holding more than 80% of the market share. So there is room to grow. And just to finish up, I said that we haven't talked about AI, and we won't talk about AI a lot in this video. But the main important point for me is that if we see this kind of growth here, and imagine now if you add to it the MI300 numbers coming in late this year and early next year, challenging Nvidia going forwards, I think this could be really interesting company. So really important to follow the earnings on the 1st of August, and then followed by Nvidia's earnings on the 23rd of August, and I think Intel's is a couple of days before AMD's. So I will make sure to update you when those numbers are out. So thank you for watching the video, and see you in the next one.